Hello and welcome to Rapidly Deploying Social Services on Amazon Connect. My name is Dominic Catalano, and I'm a Senior Specialist Solutions Architect here at Amazon Web Services, supporting Amazon Connect in a part of our worldwide public sector. In this session, we will be walking through how a number of organizations responded to and are still responding to the COVID-19 pandemic by deploying critical social services in a matter of weeks, days, or hours on Amazon Connect. Organizations that respond to disruptive, large-scale events need the ability to provide answers and services quickly to their constituents in order to minimize fear, provide support, and maintain local communities. The pandemic has amplified concerns about the economy, about public health, and about personal financial well-being. People across the world now have to face tough questions about being able to sustain their small businesses. State and local governments now have to respond to try and contain and minimize the impact of a deadly virus. Across the board, people need access to information, to critical services, and so much more. At the end of the day, every hour, every minute matters because people's lives and their livelihoods are at stake. Throughout the course of this session, we will discover why governments and institutions turn to Amazon Connect to provide support, relief, and information to those who need it most. After that, we'll go through case studies, starting with the state of Maryland and their contact tracing initiative. Then we'll learn how the state of Kansas and their Department of Labor used the scale of Amazon Connect in order to provide relief and support directly to its residents. Finally, we'll talk through how Employment and Social Development Canada was able to drive innovation while quickly deploying a solution to provide relief and assistance directly to the people of Canada. But before we talk about these stories, we need to first understand what is Amazon Connect and why it's uniquely positioned to support these programs. Amazon Connect is the rapidly deployable, easy-to-use, cloud-based contact center technology that was built for and used by, today, Amazon.com. AWS brought Amazon Connect to market so that customers can deliver exceptional omni-channel customer experiences while leveraging the same pay-as-you-go model people have come to expect from the cloud. It includes standard contact center functionality that most people have come to expect, including things like skills-based routing to maximize agent efficiency while increasing customer satisfaction, call recording and real-time monitoring for quality assurance, a host of real-time and historical metrics, callback capabilities, and so much more, all delivered over the internet as part of a cloud-based offering. AWS customers are able to launch and start receiving calls in about 5 minutes since there are no hardware requirements. Since Amazon Connect handles all telephony capabilities, customers can focus on building out customer experiences. This agility and time to value has contributed to its rapid growth and adoption over the last few years. It also allows customers to immediately begin taking advantage of Amazon Connect as a scalable cloud-based contact center platform. Now, Amazon Connect was built from the ground up to be 100% cloud-based. There are no servers to install, no browser extensions, no applications to manage. All parts of Amazon Connect are available purely in the browser by default. Amazon Connect can be set up in minutes, and agents can start receiving calls after a few simple steps. These agents can be located practically anywhere in the world as long as they have a broadband internet connection. There's no need to have your agents located in one building or attached to a complicated VPN network. Because Amazon Connect handles all telephony capabilities, you can focus on building and iterating on customer experiences as opposed to managing hardware or managing SIP trunks or contracts. The self-service interface makes it easy for anyone to go in and start building out customer experiences. There are no programming experience required, and certainly you don't need 20 years of industry experience to start using Amazon Connect. Anyone can get started within minutes. Amazon Connect is an open platform that is easy to integrate with other enterprise systems, whether they're in AWS or on-premise, through the serverless compute service AWS Lambda. This open API-accessible design has allowed our vast ecosystem of partners to build out over 185 integrations with Amazon Connect across a variety of domains, including areas like workforce management, campaign management, security, analytics, and so much more. Like other AWS services, you only pay for the time you use Amazon Connect. There are no long-term commitments, minimums, thresholds, or per agent licensing agreements. Whether you consume 10 minutes, 1 million, or more, Amazon Connect can scale to help you meet those requirements. Now, let's transition over to see how some other organizations have leveraged the power of Amazon Connect. And we'll start with Maryland's Department of Information Technology and their contact tracing initiative. While contact tracing is not necessarily a new technique, states like Maryland needed to find ways to scale their implementations of contact tracing to try and contain the COVID-19 pandemic. As a quick summary, contact tracing is the process of identifying an individual who has tested positive for an infectious pathogen. Through the course of an interview, a contact tracer identifies the contacts that may have come in contact with that individual, guides those individuals through the process of monitoring or quarantining, and if any of them test positive, the process is repeated until the chain of possible transmission is halted. Now, traditionally, this is a very complex, time-consuming, and manual process that involves multiple parties very often working in the same room. However, with this pandemic, a lengthy project to build out an in-person contact tracing operation simply wasn't an option. With a mandate by Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, the state leveraged Amazon Connect and Salesforce to build out COVIDLink, the state's contact tracing platform. In less than 2 months, the state was able to roll out the platform to all 24 jurisdictions of the state. They used Amazon Connect's ability to scale to handle their influx of traffic, as well as onboard over 1,000 contact tracers into the platform. And these tracers could work safely from home. Using Amazon Connect, these contact tracers were able to begin a trace investigation by viewing a record within Salesforce and initiating a call simply by clicking on a link. These calls were recorded and all activity was logged so they could be reviewed at a later date if required. Now, because of the efforts of the state and these contact tracers, the COVIDLink platform is able to handle over 11,000 new contacts per day, meaning that between 80 and 90% of individuals are able to be contacted within a 24-hour period. The ability to deploy a complex and critical bit of infrastructure in a matter of weeks meant the state was able to trace exposures across counties and seamlessly escalate using Salesforce as a single source of record. According to Lance Shine, the Deputy Secretary of Information Technology, we knew the sooner it was launched, the sooner it would save lives. It was effective because just within the first 10 days or so, we kept over 2,000 people off the streets that were exposed to COVID-19 and ended up having symptoms. Simply put, the COVIDLink platform allows the state to contact trace, it keeps the contact tracers safe, and it helps prevent the spread of a deadly virus. But the pandemic didn't just create contact tracing problems. The unemployment crisis caused challenges across the country. So next we'll talk about the state of Kansas and their Department of Labor. In a time of crisis, one of a state's most important obligations is to deliver accurate information efficiently to citizens. This capability is essential to allaying fears, ensuring public safety, and expediting the delivery of critical services. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly and her team understand the vital importance of this function, so they took action to modernize critical contact center infrastructure in a matter of weeks to make sure their residents could get the information and access to services they needed. Now, time was of the essence for the state. The solution had to meet their deployment window. It had to be easy to use, easy to learn, and easy to operate. And Amazon Connect met all of those requirements. So the state turned to AWS and Amazon Connect to help deploy new solutions. For the Department of Labor, it's important to understand that under normal circumstances, they were receiving around 1,700 calls per day. By contrast, at the height of the crisis, they were receiving over 1.6 million calls a day. This meant that within the first 15 minutes of a business day, the call queues filled up, and anyone who tried to call after that received a busy signal. So they tried calling again, and were frustrated and were unable to get access to the information they needed. So in a span of 2 days, they implemented a new solution on Amazon Connect. They created a triage contact center that overlays their existing legacy environments. This triage contact center sorts calls based on the specific type of inquiry to the appropriate resource, either live or self-service. When no agents are available, they now have the option to receive a callback, so they're not waiting on hold. This allows callers to get information via self-service, but it also enables highly trained agents to spend more time working with residents to file claims as opposed to answering basic information questions. While residents are still experiencing wait times and delays in part due to historically high volumes, the team is advancing towards its goal of serving more Kansans every day. They've noted that while the total volume of calls is in fact going down, from 1.6 million before launch to 1.15 million 3 days later to around 400,000 7 days later, the interesting statistic they've shared with us is that the number of unique phone calls, or phone numbers rather, have remained relatively constant. And this indicates that callers are able to get the information they need in fewer attempts. According to Kate Davis, the legislative liaison for the governor's office, our goal was to serve more Kansans every day, and we're doing that. Our agents can hear the relief in callers' voices when they're finally able to speak to a person after they've been calling without success in previous weeks. It is highly fulfilling for them to help their residents in need at this time. Now, Davis shared a similar speed to market experience with an earlier implementation of Amazon Connect. So when the stakeholders asked her how long it would take to implement this solution, she simply explained that all was needed was to decide on the verbiage to be used, to be played back to callers, and from there she can drag and drop the rest of the system. But the pandemic has been global in scope, and more than just US entities have leveraged Amazon Connect to deliver information and support to their citizens. Like other governments, the Employment and Social Development Canada, or ESDC, was faced with enormous pressure to provide relief directly to those who were in true need. They also faced the limitations of an inflexible legacy system. Yet in spite of these limitations, ESDC needed to move quickly. People were losing their jobs. There was no funding to help people buy groceries, and the trust of the people in their government was at risk. So ESDC stood up an Amazon Connect environment in an accelerated fashion. ESDC, with the help of Accenture, was able to plan, bid, contract, and build version 1 of the platform that would go on to support Canadian citizens. Now, they've mentioned that though the total delivery was 9 days, they were able to spin up Amazon Connect and the relevant components in just 4 days. Over the next week or so, they onboarded around 1,500 people to staff this contact center. And these were people that weren't necessarily contact center agents. These were people from a diverse set of backgrounds and even people from other parts of the government. Over a short training period, they were able to learn how to use the Amazon Connect interface, start taking calls, and immediately begin making an impact. This enabled ESDC to handle tens of thousands of calls, peaking around 47.5 thousand calls on a given day. Overall, they've identified well over 1 million contacts that have been connected to the Amazon Connect platform as part of their pandemic response. This ability to deploy a solution, staff it, and immediately begin making an impact has changed the way the Government of Canada is viewing this set of technology. In the words of Benoit Long, the Chief Transformation Officer at ESDC, I have to say that my bosses and most of the government is probably wondering why we can't do this more often. The appetite inside the organization for that level of mobilization, speed, and solutioning, and being engaged rapidly, you just can't take that away once they've tasted it. And when you consider their previous technology stack, this viewpoint is absolutely understandable. Long noted that their previous contact center technology stack took 2 years to design, 2 more to procure, and then 5 years to install. By contrast, they stood up an Amazon Connect contact center that was able to handle thousands of concurrent calls in just 9 days. This pandemic has forced an unprecedented change in how the world operates. Governments, educational institutes, healthcare systems, and nonprofits across the board are looking at ways to rapidly improve and iterate on the services that they provide to their customers. With Amazon Connect, organizations like the ESDC are able to take advantage of the speed at which cloud technology can provide value. Using a cloud-based technology, they can leverage the scale and reliability built into the system while configuring customer experiences on the fly. Organizations like the Kansas Department of Labor and the state of Maryland can scale to meet their capacity requirements while creating new ways to either make the caller experience more efficient or the agent experience more productive. Now, Job Zero at AWS is security, and Amazon Connect is no exception. Amazon Connect is accredited to FedRAMP Moderate, HIPAA eligible, and PCI DSS compliant. It also participates in other compliance programs as well. Now, the potential for innovation goes beyond just leveraging the cloud. Customers can embed Amazon Lex chatbots directly into a contact center. Imagine being able to use the similar natural language understanding engine that powers Amazon Alexa to provide support to your customers. Imagine what you can do in terms of automation and self-service. Or you can take advantage of things like call transcription, sentiment analysis, call categorization, and so much more with a couple clicks using Contact Lens for Amazon Connect. Like other AWS services, Amazon Connect is a pay-as-you-go service. There are no per-agent licensing agreements, there's no minimums, there's no thresholds, there's no penalties. So when services and programs need to scale up, they can do so seamlessly. And when these programs are no longer needed, or if they need to be scaled back, customers immediately begin saving money simply because consumption goes down. However, when new programs and when new services are needed, Amazon Connect and AWS stand ready to help our public sector customers respond to whatever may come. If you'd like to learn more about Amazon Connect, please consider viewing some of these other reInvent sessions where we'll dive deeper into the service itself, some other architectural patterns, as well as some other case studies of how customers are using Amazon Connect. Or feel free to check out our documentation to learn how you can get started with Amazon Connect today and start making a difference. Thank you very much for attending our session, and please remember to fill out your surveys.